What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin.
And we have yet another album review for you. This one I kind of wanted to go over because I know people have been talking about it in the comments, and honestly, this is my first listen with this band in terms of like a full album. We're going to go over the latest offering from Mantar, Post-Apocalyptic Depression. Man, I tell you what, I think 2025 is on the brink of that right now.
Yeah, I would say it's very appropriate for this time period in life. We were just talking about that.
And what a day for this to come out, because it came out on Valentine's Day as well. This came out on Metal Blade Records. This band formed in 2012 in Germany, though the name is actually Turkish for mushroom. I just thought that was interesting. This is their 6th overall. And again, the first time that I've actually sat down and listened to a full album. I've heard some tracks here and there, and I mean, describing this band, I mean, all right, they're listed as like sludge and like black metal, kind of hybrid. I could almost call this sludge and roll. There's a lot of punk, there's a lot of hardcore, there's a little bit of black metal, but one thing's for certain, there's a ton of energy, and kind of wish I'd went to FTA last year, not only because that would have been the last year for it, but Mantar was there, and I have a feeling this band is probably pretty awesome live.
I have a feeling this band fit in very well at Full Terror Assault. It is so nice. I just want to take a moment and revel in the fact that I am not the only one here on this panel that has never heard this band before. There are now 2 of us. Usually I'm the Lone Ranger in the, hey, I've never heard this band before. Nick said to check them out, blah, 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 blah. We both never heard it. And this is a proud moment for me here at Thralls of Metal. Thank you.
Rarefied air.
Yes,
really is.
yes. So right off the bat, getting into this record, there's a unified theme on here for a majority of these tracks that hits home, but not in the normal way it hits home. I am just going to say that I would have dug the absolute shit out of this my freshman year of high school, because the vibes that this record has are very akin to the Seattle grunge scene in the 90s. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Nirvana, mostly.
Yeah.
Bleach.
Like Bleach.
Nevermind. A little bit of Nevermind, but mostly Bleach. And it's just got that sound pretty much throughout the record. Dogma Down, I think, was the first time I really said, holy shit, this sounds straight up like Bleach. I just was instantly reminded of wearing dorky t-shirts and a flannel and greasy hair and all the wonderful things that I was in high school. And that doesn't really leave at all. A lot of meat and potatoes as far as the music is concerned. A lot of just really simplistic riffing. All the riffs have this just fuzzy, kind of grimy, sleazy tone over it all. The drums are pretty much just straightforward, really punky, and a guy with a fuzz filter over his voice. And we're off to the races.
Dude, his vocals are larynx shredding. Like, they sound like they're being abused with every word he says, and I love it. There's a punk aesthetic to this that I really dig. It's all about, like, heightened energy, and riff-wise, it's really interesting because there's, you know, definitely moments in here where I would say they're more metallic. But for the most part, I feel like the riffs are like just kind of like good, sleazy, heavy rock with like a punk backbone to them. Bands like Cavallertech, The Bronx, Mondo Generator, for those people that go deep down the Queens of the Stone Age rabbit hole and discover that band. And a little bit of like noise rock, like stuff like Jesus Lizard. Lots of feedback in here, and when the guitars do harmonize, there's generally like this squealy, ugly tone. But all the songs are very high energy. They all kind of have that punky sort of vibe where they're very up-tempo. The riffs are snarling. I love the guitar tone. This thing is just sizzly and just kind of greasy and dirty sounding. Like when we say meat and potatoes, there's a lot of gristle on this meat. And you're still going to eat it because it's delicious, I think. The songs, for the most part, are short. They're abrasive, but they're also hooky. Like, there's a lot of really catchy, fun riffs on here.
Pretty much right from the rip. Actually, the first 3 songs are almost some of the catchiest things on here. Absolute Ghost, Rex Perverso, Principal Command, Morbid Vocation, and really the list goes on. And they're not intricate by any means, but the way that they're presented, they're just a little bit sludgy, and they're kind of groovy, and just earworms throughout.
Yeah, there's not like a lot in the way of variety in here, but there is a lot in the way of momentum. These songs, you know, continuously have like energy right out of the gate and then know how to like drop out and build it back with, again, like very straightforward transitions. Like I would kind of compare this almost to like crust punk, except it's not all about the D beat. Like there's, more of like an up-tempo beat here, but it's not a straightforward D beat. In fact, like the drums are pretty just straightforward. Like you get a lot of those like Dave Grohl beats that you would hear, back in early Nirvana. And riff-wise, it's, again, like more rock-centric, though you do have some more metallic moments on here.
Of course, one of our favorite songs is the one that's the most difficult to pronounce. This band is from Germany, of course, and all of the songs are in English until our favorite track.
Yeah, Hals Gericht, that might be how you say it. Definitely a more menacing tone right out of the gate. And in terms of like atmosphere, like generally it's just like the feedback and some like noisy, like little bits here and there. Occasionally you get like some more like wah filters and such in the guitars. But that one definitely has like some slightly more metallic moments on it. There's also a little bit more groove to the song. When it gets down the chorus, it kind of half times the rhythm and you kind of just like settle into it for a second, because a lot of this is just up tempo. But also in terms of like the more metallic stuff on here, Axe Death Scenario, which I can't imagine that scenario ends very well for whoever's not holding the axe.
That's fair.
Well, it comes in kind of like a lot of these songs, it's just bold, it's noisy, it's already like, kicking your furniture and destroying shit. It breaks into this transition that goes straight to blast beats and tremolo riffs.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the heaviest moments on here.
Yeah.
And it really catches you off guard because it's like towards the end of the album, and it's one of the first times it really gets that heavy.
Right. Where was this? Because a lot of this has the same vibe to it, and that's not a bad thing. It's not like I didn't enjoy it, but it was nice to see it get a little bit darker, and I was not expecting blast beats at all. There's nothing in this record up until this point. Nothing that would dictate blast beats.
A lot of this kind of alternates between, like, again, like those big, gnarly rock riffs and, like, kind of punk. Like, the 1-2 punch of Pit of Guilt and Church of Suck. I love these song titles. I kind of picture it in my head that the Pit of Guilt is the playground next to the Church of Suck. But they're both way more punk-laden. A little bit shorter, too. Like, they're just bold, like, heavy strumming. You do get some, like, harmonized, catchy riffs in there. But for the most part, it's all, like, just piss and vinegar. But you compare that to the last track, Cosmic Abortion.
Ugh.
That one, honestly, might be the most dynamic song on here. And I love the build at the beginning. It really builds the mood a bit. And you get into this flat-out Thunder Kiss 65 chug.
100%. It is undeniable. It's interesting because I mentioned White Zombie very early on in this album, and Nick said, hold on a minute, you'll hear it. And I swear to God, it is Thunder Kiss 65. But that song, too, has a little bit more of an intricacy in it. The drum work is actually pretty dynamic. You get some tribal beats. You get a different sort of groove. The same can be said for, again, Axe Death Scenario with blast beats. Like, it's not totally void of different things. While it does hearken a similar vibe most of the time, you still get, like, little nuggets of fun.
Yeah. I'd also say Two Choices of Eternity is definitely a little bit more aggro, but it's more of like a hardcore aggro. This whole album is high energy, and I would say kind of like wavers a little bit in the energy, but for the most part, I feel like you kind of get a lot of the same dynamic on a lot of these songs. You generally are greeted to like a really catchy riff right out of the gate. Again, the production here I think is fantastic. It's got this gritty sound to it, but it's well mixed, and again, the drum sound is fucking great. But generally you just kind of get into these like punky grooves. You get like an almost anthemic kind of sleazy chorus, and then the song kind of gives you maybe like a brief bridge, and then we're done. On to the next battering. And while there isn't a lot of writing here, I enjoyed the overall vibe of this. In fact, this reminded me of going to shows when I was in high school. Like, this was the kind of band that I would see at a really shitty club that would get paid at the end of the night with like beer, weed, or a carton of smokes.
I've played that show. Played that exact show and have been paid in at least one of those ways.
As far as like any negatives on here, and we kind of alluded to that, it does kind of need some moments on here to kind of break it up. Like, Kvelertak, I think, is kind of like a good baseline comparison, but Kvelertak, they mix it up a lot. Like, you'll go from blackened sections to like flat out like power pop hooks to like old school heavy metal. This band kind of locks in on one particular sound, and that wouldn't be much of an issue, except the last two tracks really showed off a lot more. And I was like, man, where was this? Like the blast beat section? Like, I don't want this to be completely loaded with blast beats or anything.
No.
But like a couple more tracks where they kind of break into something very similar. And yeah, there's like a little bit of blackened energy in here, but I could, stand some more distant riffs every now and then. It's just kind of like mixing it up a little bit. And when they do that on those last 2 tracks, the energy's maintained. It still sounds like a party. It's still riffy as hell. It's still got like the big hooks. I just kind of needed to hear a little bit more of that.
And I pretty much am in agreement with that. I don't have too many digs I can make on this record because it's fun. And that shows in all of these songs. Again, just that kind of like punky, grungy alternative sound that this record has too. Reminds me again of A Whole Lot of Fun. So I can't really knock it, but I will say that out of 12 tracks, like 7 or 8 of them sounded the exact same. To be honest with you, Church of Suck into Two Choices of Eternity, I didn't know the track had changed until I looked at my phone and went, oh, this is a different song. So I can kind of knock it there, but again, it's not a direct dig because it wasn't terrible.
And again, since I haven't heard any of their other albums,
right,
I don't know how this one stacks up against previous albums, so I can't even make that comparison. So I don't know if this is like a wildly different album for them, or a day at the office, or this is a drop-off. To me, this is kind of a fresh, interesting band that reminds me a lot of bands that I still listen to, honestly.
Right.
So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. While it isn't like the most dynamic, like all over the place wild listen, it's fun. It's energetic. The riffs are great. The production here is fantastic. I love the sleazy, greasy energy in here. Like, this is just, just dripping with like dank, dirty clubs. Like, this album has the atmosphere of an old bar where you could still smoke and the ashtrays have never been cleaned out. And I love it. I love it. I would honestly call this sludge and roll. Like, it does have a lot of sludgy riffs. The guitar tone definitely has a sludgy sort of vibe to it, but there's a lot more rock riffs and punk riffs on here than there are flat out metal ones. And that's not a complaint because they do it really well. If you're into bands like, again, The Bronx, earlier Nirvana, Mondo Generator, stuff like that, check this band out. This was pretty damn fun.
I'm pretty much in agreement, although I'm at a 3, and that's not, again, to dig on this band whatsoever. This is a very easy album to listen to and a whole lot of fun. It is definitely sleazy. Everybody that came to this party forgot deodorant. Like, it's one of those bands, you're just like, man, all right, ugh.
But don't worry, you get bum smokes from everyone in the crowd.
100%. They're all smoking Camel Non-Filters or Winston Reds. I can just promise you. Like I said earlier, I think this oozes Seattle in the 90s. For me, this is like 1994, 1995. And I, along with everything I was listening to, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, White Zombie, early Nirvana, it's pretty much all in here too. I think this would have fit perfectly into that collection. I have really no complaints about the mix, to be honest. Again, it sounds like something I would have been into back then. Fuzzy, crunchy guitars, got big, meaty drums, the riffs are catchy, there's hooks galore, the songs are short and sweet. It's just a party, and I think that's what they wanted. But yeah, if you're into bands, again, like Mondo Generator, Motorhead, White Zombie, early Nirvana, a myriad of other bands that were around during that time, you're probably really going to dig this. Nonetheless, although it's our first listen, I would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I throw in therapy, too. There's some therapy vibes in some of these songs.
Oh, I'm going to therapy. Oh, man.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They were only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we will be doing those monthly. I think we have this month covered. Well, no, we didn't do one in January. I don't know. We'll do them
We'll
monthly.
figure it out.
We will. But the memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below in the video description. And if you would like to become a member of this channel and brag to your friends that you did that thing,
Way to go.
then you can hit a button down here someplace.
You can. It's there, I promise. Tons of stuff coming from Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings. We have At the Gates coming up next, which we will get to at some point. Life has been crazy busy, but I promise you we will get there. Multiple discussion forums, multiple segments. Is it metal? Is it not metal? States of Metal, Nick's never-ending collection updates. I'm telling you what, there's just all metal all the time. We do it for you guys because we appreciate you. Thank you to everyone that has become a part of this channel, everybody that talks to us for whatever reason. I can't figure that one out either because I know us. But yeah, everybody that talks to us, everyone that's subscribed, everyone that supports this channel, we absolutely adore you guys. We appreciate you. more than you know.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule, and tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because of all your rulage.
Thank you.
And we will catch you later.